This meeting to order at, we're a little bit late today, my apologies, 5:05. We'll call the meeting to order. Any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest? No. So hearing none. Preliminary matters. Madam Secretary, is there anything that we need to cover off before we approve the agenda?
No.
No? Okay, very good. So could I have a motion to approve this agenda?
So moved.
Member Rose?
Second, Ken.
Second, Ken, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. So we've already gone, we were in our in-camera session and we did not finish, so we'll have to go back into in-camera after this open session call. But Madam Secretary, I don't think there's anything that we need to report on from that session, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're in the public session and we are on item 7. And item 7 is just something I anticipate with just can't wait for it each week. And this is the fondly referred to ward report. And I'm sure that no other detachments have the ward report. They're not as nice as we are.
Definitely not as high tech.
So Terry, why don't I turn it over to you? I did make a little list of things that I wanted to bring up in this session while we were linking in with you as well, but I know you've got some things that you want to share with us, and I'll turn the floor over to you. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I assume each of you have had a chance to kind of review this quarterly report. So this is for the second quarter, right? Which goes from 1st of April 2021 till the end of June 2021. So we're always a little bit behind, but that's the norm. So I'll just run through a few highlights of things, and at the end, if there's any questions, throw them out, and I'll do my best to answer them. So we'll start off with, just as you can see, it starts off with complaints and secondary employment. So we have none, so that's good. Moving on, you can see that it goes into the violent crime section, and I mean, this is for the second quarter. So you can see the second quarter, we've had, the 1 attempt murder investigation. There's 1 sexual assault, 10 assault charges, 4 robbery occurrences, and 12 other crimes against persons. And then in the other column over, you can see year to date, and it kind of lists the year to date. So at the end of the second quarter, we've investigated 52 violent crime occurrences. So that's how that reads.
And Terry, at the end of next year will be, the 2021 will go into the other column, and I guess they're all zeros again. I just want to make
right, because we don't have the data. So yeah. So next year you'll have, in that one column, it'll be 2021, and then it'll be a comparison with 2022, just to kind of see where we're at, right?
And if I could, and maybe you could comment on it as you go, but I'd be interested again, like the numbers without grounding into something is difficult for us to understand. Is that a lot? Is it good? Is it not? Maybe you could just offer your opinion. Is that a lot or good? Or
I think we're kind of on the low end, really, when it comes to, especially when I'm talking about the violent crime. Yeah. I mean, because you got to remember that these numbers could be unsubstantiated or substantiated. Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that because we had 4 robberies that they were actually 4 robberies. They could have been attempts which turned into nothing. Doesn't mean there was 4 charges laid. It just means that it was classified as a robbery. Right. So again, going back to the assaults, right, where it shows in this period 10 assaults. So that's 10 over a 3-month period. So again, it doesn't classify it. It doesn't differentiate between the class of, that was 10 assault charges. It could have just been 10 assault. It's 10 assault investigations, right? So it's classified as an assault based off of the definition in the criminal code. But it doesn't mean that, again, right? That's 3 a month, so to speak. Really. That's pretty minimal, especially with the size that Orangeville is becoming and the population. I mean, 3 assault investigations really doesn't take much for that, right?
Yeah.
So,
and if I may, they may or may not have led to a charge, right? You could just investigated and there was nothing further, and
correct.
Everything was as it is.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
Because we could still get that call to the point it was, pushing and shoving at a school. Well, that's still considered under definition an assault, right? So it would be classified under that assault investigation tab, right?
And
So-
Terry, it's Ian McSweeney. Just to clarify, when the heading is Police Services Board report for Orangeville. By for Orangeville, does that mean that the events relating to these charges occurred within the city limits of Orangeville?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So everything to do
By
with this
whoever.
report, everything to do with this report, except there's one page, and I'll explain it when we get to it, has to do with the town of Orangeville.
Thank you.
So moving on, we'll go into the property crime section. As you can see, right, there was during this 3-month period, there was 6 break and enters investigated, 7 theft overs. And again, when I say theft over, it's a dollar value, so it's theft over $5,000. Theft unders 87. That includes anything under $5,000. So again, your shopliftings, your anything under 5 gets classified in there. 2 investigations where people were in possession of stolen goods. 29 fraud investigations. Now you got to remember with the amount of internet fraud and phone frauds, and those all get classified under that occurrence as well. So I mean that's constant. We're constantly getting those calls of especially the seniors where they try to get them out of money, right? 25 mischief investigations for a total for those 3 months of 156 occurrences. So that to me, when you ask about it, for a town this size, that's average. That's an average amount of investigations there. When you get into the drug crimes, we had 1 possession investigation, 1 trafficking investigation for a total of 2. And again, to me, that's on the low side because I know our street crimes units are busy. But again, if they're not concluding their investigations, if they're open investigations, they won't show on this because they haven't been cleared yet, right? These are all occurrences that have been cleared. So the clearance rate, it's kind of deceiving again, stats. Like a violent crime, 57.1% clearance rate. So that means 57.1% of those occurrences are cleared with no further action done, right? Property crime, 16.7%. And again, right, you have a higher number of occurrences. So our clearance rate is a little bit lower because not in all of them are charges being laid. It's as simple as that. And the same with drug calls, right? The drug charges are the same, 50%. So moving into the provincial offenses. So as you can see, and it lists, these are strictly charges laid in Orangeville. So part threes are a summons to court. Okay, so the value is over $500. The fine would be over $500, whereby that person gets a summons to court. So as you can see, it breaks it down, but for the last 3 months, right, 21 were issued in April, 14 in May, 12 in June. And we can do the comparisons here because these stats are pulled straight from the courts. So as you can see, there is a comparison to 2020. So, we're basically on average. April, we were way higher for whatever reason. So it's kind of nice to see that. At the end of the second quarter, we're at 69. We're on pace to be the same or beat last year. Not that it's a race, but it is nice to kind of head up, right? Mm-hmm. Part ones are your PONs, your tickets. And as you can see again, at the end of the second quarter, right, we're at almost 688 provincial offense notices for the year so far. So if we stay on this pace, we'll exceed last year's totals. So
they're way up, eh?
Yeah. So when I look at this goes back to what I was talking about with with good morale, happy morale. The officers come in, they do their job. And again, as we talked before, you don't always rely on stats to say how things are going. But when I see this, it tells me that the officers are out there doing the enforcement piece that that we're asking them to do. So,
yeah. And again, that enforcement piece is not popular if you're the one being enforced, but I can tell you the community appreciates this and wants this.
yeah.
We need these things enforced. So
Sometimes it's a necessary evil, right?
It is, again, not popular, but necessary.
And just moving on, some other little stats at the bottom there, like for those 3 months, cruiser patrol hours, 2,064 hours. So lots of patrol. The guys and girls are out in the communities, right? They're out in Orangeville patrolling the streets. 92 hours a ride over the 3 months, 192 and a half foot patrol hours. So that's basically just walking the parks and walking the main streets. And that's part of my preference. I want to see that. I want to see them out of the cars and on foot. This is where we spend a lot of our hours too, traffic complaint hours, for 3 months, 113.25 hours just handling traffic complaints. So that's high as far as I'm concerned. That's a lot of hours that we dealt in dealing with traffic complaints. And again, it just is what it is. Mental health calls for the 3 months, we had 102 mental health calls. So to me, that's high. There's a lot. That's a lot. And this is where our mental health unit gets engaged. Of those 102, I know that the unit responded directly to 14 where people were in crisis. So that means that they were definitely in crisis at the time that our mental health unit got there, that had a crisis worker with them and was able to intervene and get that person the help they needed, whereby it be another partnership to the hospital, whatever they needed. But that's, and again, when you say 102 and only 14, but you got to understand that that's a pretty good, we're going to take that as a win. Just for the fact that was 14 interventions that would maybe never have happened before we started this unit. And as we continue to grow it and build it, I think we're only going to see better things, right? And again, we're not 24/7 with this MCERT unit. We're only, 4 days a week for 10 hours a day.
Terry, may I ask on your hours then? So what you're saying is over a 3 month period, 113. So basically 3 weeks of one full-time person is
dealing with traffic complaints.
Yeah. But then you would have is that, how do you know as a percentage of your business, I guess? I keep calling it a business, but. Yeah,
I mean, you could definitely add it all up and do the math, but just to me, to say that in 3 months, we did 113.25 hours of just dealing with traffic complaints, right? And we know that, that's the biggest complaint we have in Dufferin County, not just Orangeville, Dufferin County is the traffic complaints that we deal with because of the traffic that goes through here. I was going to say on the weekends, but it's not even the weekends anymore. It's constant.
Yeah.
It's constant.
Do you have any solutions for the public or us, or how do you feel about that?
What we're looking at doing? This area needs a traffic unit. We need to be able to focus the tip of the spear to some of the high spots, right? To maybe kind of take that away. We don't want to strip the platoons because they're the ones on the front line that are answering the calls for service, right? Yeah. But what we are going to do, we're pretty much in position now where, summer vacation is over. Some of our officers that have been off on parental leave are starting to return to work. Our staffing's in pretty good shape right now. So what we've done is we've put out an expression of interest to the detachment, and we're going to start by looking at taking 3 officers and putting them specifically on a traffic unit within Dufferin County. We're then going to we're going to take a sergeant. We have an admin sergeant, and we're going to make that admin sergeant part admin but part traffic to oversee these officers. And we're going to build some expectations for them as to what's expected, and we're going to start to point them at some of our problems, right? So, for example, we have noisy car problems in Orangeville on specific dates, we can take those officers and put them specifically to that problem. So they're not getting pulled away to the domestic calls. They're not getting pulled away to the barking dogs and the stolen logs. Their function is going to be specifically to deal with these traffic occurrences, right? If we have speeding issues on Highway 10, we can identify and say, okay, go, for the next 2 days, you're just going to go and do education and enforcement on Highway 10. So we're going to try that. We're going to see what kind of results we get. If we can actually, you know, it would be nice to have a bigger unit by all means, right? Because then you can hit different areas throughout the area. But we've got to start, again, we've got to start somewhere, right? So this is where we think we're going to start.
Yeah, he just today alone, and again, I can't, it feels like this is the spot to bring it up. So I guess a little bit of grandstanding, but also trying to be benevolent here. But Cedar Drive continues to come up, and there are different people that are phoning from that area, and it's such a small strip. So again, not an operational discussion, just bringing it to your attention. Absolutely. And then the other two continue to be, and you know, the deputy mayor may be interested in this as well, but Alder Street and Spencer Avenue. And I know there's other ones, and if you're in the public and you're watching this meeting, believe me, I know. I'm just telling you what I've heard today, and it's such a concern, and it's tiring because we again have the same problems in the same areas.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, you're not telling us something we don't know, right?
Oh,
like it's just a matter of we don't have the resources to put an officer on the street in that specific area 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because our calls for service keep coming, right? And they have to take priority. And again, like you can see from the statistics, right, that the enforcement piece is being done, but it's a never-ending job, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of looking at that. Just on a sidebar, I reached out today because we still haven't got the black cats. So I
asked about that. Okay.
Right. So I reached out today, and there's been a problem with getting some of the parts, and I guess COVID related. But he promised me we'd have them by next week. So I'm going to hold him to that. And I mean, again, once we get these units and we get up and running with them, you know, when you get that call that there's a problem, we can deploy one of those units for a couple of days to see, do we actually have a problem that now we can point some enforcement at, or is it a perceived problem? And no, we're not going to put our resources there. So.
Yeah. And just for those that aren't aware of what you're referring to, do you mind giving the definition again of what that is?
Well, it's just a speed measure. Yeah, it's just a speed measuring device.
Yeah,
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's covert, right? The public won't know where they are or what they are. Just the police will be able to measure it.
Correct.
Good enough.
And we're able to get some hard data to show, do we have a problem in this area that we need to do some enforcement on? Or is it just a perceived problem that, again, when you're standing still, a car going 40 kilometers an hour, which is the posted speed limit, can still look like it's going excessively fast.
Yeah, I think we're all excited about that innovation. It's going to be good.
Yeah. So that's.
Mr. Chair, just before we leave, I just had a quick question, Ian McSweeney, to Inspector Ward about the mental health calls. So once again, all communities outside the GTA or built-up metropolitan areas struggle with mental health resources. I'm just curious, when a call, most calls probably originate through a 911. How is it? And I suppose there's a decision that gets made as to who gets called, whether it's fire, police, paramedics, or all three. So I'm assuming that included in this calls, these calls are just the ones that the police actually get sent to. Is that right, Terry? And that, so there are more mental health calls that come in through 911, but these are the ones that the police have responded to. Is that fair, or am I out of whack there?
No, so I'll answer your question through the chair, but I mean, the majority of the calls that we receive are they vary in the style of call, right? We go from a high-end 911 person in crisis down to the low end where someone's calling us to do a well-being check on someone that has maybe made a comment or a text in the past that they might have some, suicidal thoughts. So, when the officers go, we have training in that, but it's very limited training. So again, we go under our authority under the Mental Health Act, right? That if we deem that the person is a threat to themselves or others, we can apprehend them and take them directly to a medical facility, whereby here would be Headwaters, right? For an assessment by a doctor. And the doctor decides whether he's going to issue a Form 1, which is a hold for 72 hours for a psychological assessment, or he's going to release them and then get them some other help, which could be, CMHA gets involved or other, DCFS, whatever other area can help them, whereby that, again, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. It's kind of win for the person because they're getting the help they need to bring them out of crisis or to help them. For us as a police and for you as the, the Police Services Board, the contract, we want to stop those 911 calls, right? Because eventually that will affect your billing, because every 911 call, it's after this transition contract, as you know, will become a call for service. Mm-hmm. So my job is to try and make sure that we try to, we have to get the person the help they need and use the resources available to us, but also to try and eliminate those second, third, and fourth calls that come in for police assistance. Because it ties up our resources, right? If we have to take that person to the hospital and now we're still with them at the hospital, it could be hours before we're released. So again, obviously the person's well-being and health is what is our number one priority. So that's where that's what we kind of focus on. And that's where this mental health unit, right, with the crisis worker, they can go to these calls, especially with the people in crisis, and they're able to determine, because they're specially trained, yes, this person needs to go to the hospital, or no, they don't. We can get them the help they need through other resources, and then it frees up the police. So does that kind of answer your question, or did I just go in a big circle there?
Well, I was just curious because sometimes it's a police matter in addition to a medical matter. Sometimes it's more of a medical matter, and the police presence is perhaps not required or ancillary. Difficult calls to make at the outset.
Yeah, and again, at the end of the day, any of those calls, right, the paramedics don't have the authority under the Mental Health Act that we do, right? So if they get there and this person is in crisis and needs to be apprehended, it's got to be the police.
Yeah. And for the sake of safety, community safety,
absolutely.
I suspect that we're going to have some appetite for 911 calls and paying for them in the interest of making, erring on the side of safety as opposed to cost.
Absolutely. And like I explained with that one statistic, right? So 102 mental health calls in those 3 months, 14 of them people in crisis. So it's the 14 that we really needed to be there. We really needed our mental health unit and our crisis workers to be, bring their A games on those ones, and the people got the help they needed. Right. So those are the ones where we definitely had to be there for those.
Thank you. That was helpful. Thank you.
Very good. Shall we continue with the report then?
Sure. This next page is the one I was talking about. So this is total charges for all of Dufferin County. So, this includes our Highway Traffic Act, our Criminal Code traffic, our non-criminal code charges, our Liquor License Act charges, other charges, and for the totals. And as you can see, for the second quarter in Dufferin County, we laid a total of 3,079 charges. So our officers are out there doing their job.
Yeah, they're busy.
They're busy, and again, right? They're doing their job. Moving on, motor vehicle collisions. This is specific to Orangeville as well. And as you can see, we had 12 non-fatal injury collisions and 121 property damage collisions. So, I mean, that's, again, the non-fatal injury ones. Knock on wood, we haven't had any fatalities. So they're on board with that. The next are the file control registry.
Crazy spike, if I may,
Yeah.
Single, like really quite low, and then it's an amazing increase.
Yeah, and again, the only one I know is accurate is 2021.
Okay.
The other ones, I'm not sure if the data is accurate for comparison, right?
It almost leads you to think it isn't, right? Because
yeah.
God forbid, unless we all have not learned how to drive in the last little bit, and something's.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you get into the file control registry next, and it lists the primary causes, a lot of inattentive, right?
Yes.
So that kind of shows you where we're going. And then the other one I look at is a lot of following too close. So, that's when we bumper lock the car in front of us and they put the brakes on, right? So anyway, those are there. The next we go through is the false alarms, and you can see from April 1st to the 30th of June, and I won't go through all of them, but we had 55 false alarm calls within Orangeville.
Are they considered a call?
They are.
Service?
Yes.
So this is like if we were to do some sort of public relations campaign like that, this is of significance, right? And could be costing the town.
Yep. Well, and again, right, it's it not only ties up police, fire, going to these calls, right? So I don't know if the town has a bylaw where they implement, your first one's free, and other than that, you get billed. But some municipalities do have that, right? Because it's constant. So, yeah.
I guess between yourself and I, Andy, we should probably follow up on that and find out. It's headed off. I don't know the answer to that, but it shows me that there might be a problem.
Yeah, I was going to say it's interesting. I used to, ironically, when I was with the fire, like when an alarm goes wrong, the fire department go in and order them to fix it. The police have no such authority. So you can technically keep going back and back to the same thing, and the owner couldn't care less how many times you show up. Whereas with fire, I give them one alarm and then I'd be in there and say, fix it, or you're going to be charged. So it's interesting, but definitely we need a bylaw of some type.
Okay.
Sorry. And just the final was a letter, an email I received last weekend. Just, something I added in there for everyone to read that, we have one person in town that appreciates us anyway, and he promoted me. I like that. Promoted me to superintendent, which is kind of nice. But at the end of the day, it's nice to receive those, we all get the negative, but it made me put a big smile on my face when I got the positive, right? So it's nice. Like Mr. Sweeney commented about the courts. It's nice to have that positive feedback. It kind of makes us think, well, at least we're doing something right and we're moving ahead, right? So
very good. I know Mr. Neely. He's a good community man, and it was nice of him to send that note for sure.
Yeah. So, and barring any questions, Mr. Chair, that's my report.
Very good. Board members, did you have any questions for Terry?
No.
One of the things I'll just add in, and I just kind of nice to know, it'll come through on the next quarter because it was in July. We did a focus patrol on Rolling Hills, and we had some complaints about people running the stop signs and stuff up there. So I just looked up.
The new stop signs.
Yeah. So I'd looked up. We'd put a focus patrol in place for about a week, and we dedicated 7 solid hours to that, with 12 stop sign charges being laid. So I think the message got sent there too, right? So
that's great. Well, sad for those people, but it's great to have it enforced. They were put there for a reason, and
Yeah, and we'd had a few community complaints, right? And so we take it serious, and we put some enforcement on it, and there was some results. So
that's great. If I may, no one else spoke up, so I just have one question. And candidly, the inspector and I have had this discussion offline. But noisy vehicles, this is rolling up. I don't know what council is going to do, but I just wanted to bring it up in this meeting, Terry, just so the rest of the public may be aware. But I'm going to put words in your mouth, but this is what I thought I understood, and then maybe you can correct me, is the modification of a vehicle and mufflers in particular, to make them loud and then explore themselves on city streets and backfire and sound like a gun, that sort of thing, is illegal, and they can be charged. That's correct? And maybe if you had something further to add to that, I'd be appreciative.
No, you are correct. Yeah, no, that is exactly right. We have tried to target that this summer. We put that Project Noisemaker into effect. But again, it's one of those things that it's tough to catch them, because the minute we kind of appear on the scene, everything disappears. So we have had some success. Some provincial offense tickets have been laid, but we have tried to quell that a bit. But it's something obviously we still need to work on.
Yeah. Would you happen to know what the fine is on that? Is it prohibitive? Is it of significance? And if I'm putting you on the spot, I don't mean to. But
no. If you give me a minute here, I can probably look it up.
If I got it, do I care that I got it, or is it is it a $50 fine or a $200 fine? I guess
I would assume it's probably around the 110.
Okay.
With it's an equipment thing, so there's no points associated to it.
Yeah. But an annoyance, right? Enough to maybe have people think about it.
Well, and I mean, there's lots of, and I'm not adept on a lot of it, but I mean, we can put the car in for inspection. We can engage MTO. We can engage. There's lots of other things we can do with those vehicles. So it's not just a matter of, the probability of laying $100 or $110 ticket and moving on. Like, if the vehicle is really modified to a point that we can order them in for an inspection, right?
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Board members, anything else that you would like to discuss?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. Can I have a motion to receive the ward report?
So moved.
Second, Ken.
Member Rose. Thank you, Ken. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, very good. So this next item, I did read the report, and I'm just struggling to find the page number. I thought I'd marked it down here, but it's the action plan here for the OPP, and what we are going to discuss is essentially what are the goals and objectives for providing services within Dufferin County. And our inspector has shared with us a PDF report of things that the OPP does, and if other board members have it and happen to know the page number, it doesn't seem to be in order of where it was in this report. Is everyone with me on that?
So that was an additional attachment.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, some
Okay.
of the, as I had noted, some of the attachments wouldn't grant me permission to be copied into the larger file.
Okay, so is the PDF on the open?
Yes, it's in the package. It's in the additional email documents. It was sent Friday. Let me see.
I think I got it. Is it crdufferin.web PDF?
Yes.
Thank you. I now have it in front of me. Okay.
Yeah. Item number 9.
Yeah. So Inspector Ward, we had talked about things that we wanted to do, and we talked about it a little bit in closed, and I want to talk about it in open. And this isn't about what you're going to accomplish. This is about what the Orangeville Police Services Board and your leadership is going to accomplish together. And you were kind enough to provide us with a document that shares what the OPP is focused on in terms of their goals. But we wanted to make up something that would pertain to Orangeville and how that could roll out. And I think it's an awkward discussion to start off in this arena, but maybe you might have some ideas of things that we could focus on. And again, we're not going to fulfill this here tonight, but just as a little starter, as some thoughts that we could take away and think about what we want that, initiative or strategy plan to entail. Is that enough of a lead in for you?
Well, basically, as I explained before, anything we try to do has to be linked back to our action plan, right? Yeah. And the action plan breaks down into several different categories.
And this is alcohol and gaming, assets.
Well, I mean, you look at, like, for example, crime, right? Yeah. And we want to address and prevent crime in our community. So from the board perspective and from the OPP perspective, how are we going to do that, right? And again, it's a big thing. Like when you say crime, there's all different kinds of crime. So, I mean, we have to kind of decide what we want to look at. And again, examples of that are, vehicle entries, right? So people that go into vehicles. So we look at, we have the program Lock It or Lose It. So from our perspective, we use our auxiliary program and we put them out there, and they go around checking vehicles and leaving little pamphlets to remind vehicle owners to lock their vehicles, right? So that's kind of an initiative that we're preventing crime in the community. So, I mean, for that, I mean, that's effective here in Orangeville, but if there's other ideas or other things that we can put into play, because again, right, crime can break into, violent crime, there's drugs, there's cyber crime, there's all different areas that all encompass the word crime. So it's just a matter of, we try to work with the community, right? And one of the things that we always look at is the adage of the Ontario mobilization and engagement, right? Where originally we take the lead, but by the time we get to the end, we want the community to be in the lead, and we're just a resource. We sit back and we let the community run with it. So those are the kind of things that we have to kind of come up with if that's what we're looking at, is what kind of things can we put into place that ultimately results in community driven. With the police as a resource, we're always going to be there, but we don't want to always have to be the ones taking the lead on it, and that we can help to prevent crime, right?
Agreed. Okay, so if we were to have a bit of a discussion here, do you think, would it be on page 10 with the action plan? Is that where we would kind of focus our efforts, or what would
I mean, just for an example, under page 6.
Yeah.
And you can see, right, the actions, right, like collaboration with social services, continue education and awareness around, human trafficking is a big thing right now with victimization. So is there anything there that, the community needs to get involved with? Mobile crisis, which we're trying to do with our whole MCERT, right? Increase visibility in the community, both foot and in vehicles. Well, that's me, right? That falls back to the police 100%. Partner with our local business improvement associations and community partners to engage the community in crime prevention, such as Lock It or Lose It, auxiliary members, environmental awareness campaigns, right? So maybe that's something that Orangeville wants to get involved with right there, is some type of media campaign to, the Police Services Board is on board with the OPP in doing whatever in this community to prevent crime. Some of the things that we've done in the past, there was the little town hall for some of the drug problems, right? That's the community and the police working together to come up with some solutions to a problem. Mm-hmm. Those are kind of the examples when it comes to crime. And then moving on, there's crime, then there's roadways, waterways, and trails, right? And again, we want to make sure that we're trying to focus in on reducing collisions. And we also want to, reduce our number of the big four, which is, the speeding, the impaired driving, seat belts, and careless driving, right? So again, we try to do the education and enforcement pieces, but maybe there's another way that the community, or as far as the Police Services Board, wants to get engaged with that to partner with us to try and help that out, right? To try and send the message. And again, maybe it's just a media piece to send out the message that, stunt driving and excessive speed and different things within the community is not going to be stood for.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Ian McSweeney, there's just a question I have about fraud awareness. Terry, have the OPP considered a fraud awareness program focusing on vulnerable sectors like, the elderly in nursing homes and retirement homes who seem to be the target of, everybody's the target, but seem more susceptible to these targeted phone calls and internet crime?
So to answer that, Mr. Sweeney, through the chair, we do have a program in place for that. So that's a great idea. Like that could be something that, the Police Services Board puts a presentation together, with the seniors, hold an event, and the OPP will bring in this presentation and present to the seniors on how to avoid fraud.
Mhm.
That's great. Okay, so board members, to me, this is a takeaway. It was a nice introduction, good discussion, but we're going to lay out some things that we want to focus in on for Orangeville, and in conjunction with Terry. So if there's anything else that the board would like to speak to at this point, great. If not, we'll move on.
Not for me.
No. Okay. Very good. So on that one, could I have a motion to receive that report, which is item 8? Member Rose. Have a seconder. Member McIntosh. Thank you. Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chair, before we move on, and before I forget about it, I just wanted to alert the secretary that when we come to post the final package, when we post our minutes on our website, once they're approved, the materials should be, just check out the numbering of the materials. I think from item 8 onward, the materials are not numbered according to the agenda items. So I think materials in 10 should be 9 and so forth. So Heather, just to check that before, we don't need to worry about it now, but just to check that before the package gets posted.
Very good. Thank you, Member McSweeney. Okay, so we're on to item number 9, and number 9 is the human trafficking grant application. I don't think there's anything here for the board to do. It's been looked after by Inspector Ward and his team, but essentially what this is about is to ensure that our Orangeville OPP detachment have the resources and trained officers able to assist with human trafficking, and obviously to provide an education. So from my understanding, everything has been submitted to the province, but amounts have not yet been confirmed in terms of what the grants we would be. I don't know, Inspector Ward, do you want to speak to this at all? I know that there was a trafficking course that you and your team attended recently. That actually the invoice is in this package, just not for us to do anything with, just to have a view to. I don't know, do you want to provide a little more color than I'm able to do?
No, I think you got it, Mr. Chair. Through the grant for human trafficking that Mary Lou put together and was successful in achieving, a training session was put together. Staff Sergeant McLagan looked after the majority of that and put together a very successful training day Even the Solicitor General attended to do the opening remarks, and a lot of good reviews back from the officers that attended. So that was partially what was done for that, just a kind of like a training day to kind of bring. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to that human trafficking piece. So it's, again, to get our officers trained to, as the saying goes, look beyond the plate, because sometimes we can get focused just on the speeding, for example. And by talking to the people in the vehicle and knowing what to look for, you maybe uncover a lot more than just a speeding charge.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Obviously, with COVID restrictions and everything else, there's been several things recently that I would like more than just a brief update or what happened and where it happened, but more of an in-depth. I would like to know more about this particular issue myself. And I don't know, when things get a little freer, whether we might have something at a Police Service Board meeting where we would feature this particular topic, for instance. Now that if the grant comes through and everything's going to be worked on, it would be nice to know a little bit more about it. We don't need the in-depth study that the police need, but certainly a bit more about the whole issue than we know at the moment.
If I can answer that, Mr. Chair, I would be more than willing to set up a guest speaker for a Police Service Board meeting. It can be virtual, right?
Yes.
Because we have trained experts in that field, and more than likely be more than willing to come on and, do a little 10-15 minute presentation.
I would like that.
Right.
I agree. Good idea, man.
Very good idea. Okay. So did we get through that then? If there's no other questions, we'd have to have a motion to receive that report.
So moved.
Second, Ken.
Morose, Ken, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, very good. So we're on to item 10, which is our OPS logo. And basically, we have already approved item 2, which is the secondary logo there. I think they both look pretty sharp. And I guess the idea here is that the board will simply receive that information, and when we're on a call such as this, or there's documentation from this board, that would be shared out as the logo, and people would know that that's us. Any thoughts on that, everyone, or should we simply receive it? Okay, so I'm not hearing anything, so can I have a motion to receive?
So moved.
Very good, and so it's Ian with the move, and Member McIntosh seconded it. All in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, very good.
Ken has to abstain because I wasn't there, remember?
Yep, that's fine. Ken, did you
I'm
want to
gonna-
comment at all? Or?
No, I'm just going to abstain. 'Cause I
Sorry,
wasn't-
Ken, all we're doing is receiving, so you don't need to abstain from that.
Well, I will, Ian, because I didn't approve it, so it's fine. I'm just going to abstain.
But we're just receiving.
That's fine. Anyway, let's move on. Todd.
Okay. So we are into my second favorite part of the meeting, and this is a report from the vice chair regarding Zone 5 meeting, and there was lots of things in here, Ian, that caught my eye. So I'm interested to see, in particular, the different detachment boards, tow trucks, and the CPST grant information, if there is anything on those items.
Well, we need to invite Wayne for a meeting if you want a complete debrief. I'm just going to talk about it at a very high level.
Very good.
So the new legislation, the new CSPA, they're looking at a proclamation date of January. That's the official word, although there was lots of speculation, I'll say, that it might not be until the spring of 2022. Looks like they're still working on the regs. Some have been posted, but they haven't rolled out all of the regs, or I don't think they've rolled out the majority of the regulations. So we still have some time to go yet before we actually have new legislation in force with operating regulations. So just a couple of highlights for me anyway. There was a discussion which related to the OPP detachment, the consolidation of OPP detachment police service boards within the various counties. We're all familiar with that topic. The ministry called for submissions. The Solicitor General called for submissions, and those submissions were made by the municipalities. There was an interesting discussion, and talk a bit about this in closed as well. There was an interesting discussion about the extent to which the police service boards themselves made direct submissions to the ministry, and there was some bit of confusion initially, but I think in the end there was clarification that the various police services boards had their views on the consolidation, but those views were communicated directly to their respective municipalities, and then the municipalities were then left to make the formal submissions to the ministry. So, I mean, to me, that's the tidy way of doing it. Obviously difficult if you've got a divergence of views coming from the same municipality, from the police service board and the town. So that didn't happen. I'm not quite sure what this means, but the report from the ministry was that all of the submissions that were made by the municipalities had been approved. I tried to dig in a little bit as to exactly what that meant, and I'm still not sure. I know that final decisions haven't yet been made. I gather that there are still some municipalities that haven't been heard from, and that the deadline for hearing from them and our minor municipalities, Mr. Chair, were among those that hadn't been heard from, not Orangeville, but others within our area covered by our OPP, Dufferin County. Some of those hadn't been heard from, and the deadline had extended till October 30th. So you may have to wait to figure out exactly what's going on. I would imagine that a final decision would then be made by the ministry and then communicated to the municipalities.
So this is going to be quite some time before we get resolution on that, right? It'll be into the new year, I would imagine.
It sounds like it. I don't know. One of my recommendations is that, I think we should have the ministry in to talk to the board about it. It seems to be quite a dynamic situation, and Dufferin County seems to be involved in some of that uncertainty, to the extent that there are communities that haven't yet been heard from. So anyway, that would be my recommendation, that we ask a representative from the ministry, and quite honestly, to report to us in camera, but also maybe in our next public session.
Okay. Ian, do you have a ministry contact, or
It was Dwayne. I think
it
that
would be Dwayne to speak
yeah,
to it?
I think it would be Dwayne, who is, he seems very on top of things. The other interesting thing is that the Zone 5 director report. So Lisa McDonald from Wellington is the Zone 5 representative to the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards, and they're involved. I think she's leading the strategic planning initiative. So I'm going to wait until the next Zone 5 meeting where she reports more fully on that. But when those strategic planning priorities end up getting released, I'll share them with the board.
Very good. Okay. Anything further, Member McSweeney, or are you?
Just on training, there was a bit of discussion on training, and I think that is still, very much in the minds of police services boards. We welcome training, right? The new legislation is going to come in. We are going to need to understand it and understand our role.
Yes.
It's at all different from the current role. So it's comforting for me to know that this training is not only mandatory, but we'll also be getting assistance from the ministry in educating ourselves.
That's great. So with that, how will that be administered? Did they say, or will we be in a course, or? Well,
I think it'll probably be more of the same from our ministry contact. Once
I see.
They'll develop a training. I'm hoping we're not going to have to educate ourselves. I think they'll develop a training program similar to what we did in our orientation when we joined the board, and that will be rolled out once it's ready.
Yeah, Member Rose, did you want to speak to that?
I just wanted to point out that Ken and myself have already had to take the first module in the training because we're provincial appointees. And so we've already taken part 1 of the module, and then I'm assuming that they will continue on by giving us the next module and so forth. We haven't had any information about that since.
Mary, was that the ethics module?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's been rolled out across the government. So so I'm not sure whether they may modify it for various ministries, but I know that is sort of a rollout that has first priority across a number of ministries.
Mm-hmm.
Did you pass, Member Rose?
Oh, I've flying colors.
It's impossible not to pass.
Are you kidding? It's quite the document.
Oh, but it's impossible not to pass. It's a self-educated thing. If you get one wrong, you get told immediately.
Yeah. Go back and clear up your mistakes quickly.
I just had internet issues, kept going in off and on.
Oh, I know.
So the only other things I will also mention is that there's a 2021 OACP conference, October 3 to 6. For anyone that's interested in attending, you can go on the OACP website, and I think it actually might be in person. I'm not 100% sure, but just to remind you of that conference. And maybe for Terry, there was some discussion about the OPP's constable candidate screening process and changes that were being made to that, or maybe changes that had been made, and I think the report was relating to how well it was actually working.
Okay.
Just one more thing, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please, Member Rose.
This is just housekeeping. It was on page 74. We still have not updated our membership and with information as to who's on the board. So, for instance, Andy is not there yet. So I didn't know whether our secretary could get in touch with them and update that information.
Yes, I requested a blurb, and I just need to, we're going to address those items,
Okay.
Member Rose, later in the agenda.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, thank you, Member McSweeney. That was excellent. Appreciate that. Just out of curiosity, nothing on tow trucks that wasn't brought up, or?
No.
No? Okay.
I too am interested in tow trucks.
Well, this isn't a recreational thing. This was more putting rules in place.
Right, the bylaws.
Yeah. Okay. If there's nothing there, that's great. So can we have a motion to receive the report?
So moved.
Member Rose?
Second, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, excellent. So that brings us to point 12, and it's the organization of the board meeting minutes. And you know, Heather, I'm going to give you what my state is, and then maybe you can update us with what's really happening. But my understanding is we now have all of our meeting minutes posted to the website, which is great, so the public can view them. And our secretary is working on putting up the remaining postings from our time in office. And why there's a delay in putting these up is it used to be on the old Orangeville Police Services Board website. It is now part of the town website, and this information has to be reformatted. And it's a bit of a labor-intensive piece to that. And Heather has that as a task and is working through it. Heather, did I do justice to that? Do you want to update any further than that, or?
That's correct. So I'm aiming to have those completed and posted by the next board meeting.
Okay, that's great. And there is a list of steps that are in place, and people can see that. It starts on page 77 of our document, of our agreement, and goes on through.
So if I could clarify, Mr. Chair, just for the other board members, that they have to be reformatted in order to meet the accessibility requirements. The way that they were drafted originally does not meet the specifications, so I have to go through and reformat the files.
Got it. And what is your timeline on something like that?
So completion by the next board meeting.
Excellent. Okay. And out of curiosity, I know we're going to approve the meeting minutes later on in this, but I think it dovetails here. Will you be able to post, I guess it's June's, is it going to be June?
Yes, that's correct.
And we'll have it into the council meeting for, it potentially could make the meeting this coming Monday if we approve tonight and you got them off to the clerk.
Yes.
Okay, that would be ideal. Okay, perfect. Any questions for Heather on item 12?
No.
No? Okay, very good. So that brings us on to, oh, I'm sorry, a motion to receive that information.
So moved.
Mary, I have a seconder. Thank you, Andy. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so this brings us on to item 13. Item 13 is the internal service standards. You find that on page 78. And this is in place to make our tasks and responses to those tasks quicker and more accurate. There's a draft policy in place here of how things will take place behind the scenes and how we will not conduct ourselves, but from a task process, when we'll have things done and how much lead time and whatnot, so that, you know, information is brought out to the board in a timely fashion. So just as an example, there's rules for the chair in terms of when I can get the documentation into the secretary so that the secretary has time to turn it around and put out a board package. Same thing with guests, and just trying to be respectful of everyone. So if you look through it, they're highlighted with how many days, you know, and just a general process document to what needs to be done. Heather, did you want to comment, or our vice chair, do you want to comment any further? Or do you think I did that justice, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a report.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, it's just a report, really. The board hasn't blessed these service standards in camera. We're just reporting to the public that we intend to have them.
Yeah.
But they will remain internal standards.
Yeah. But again, so in my mind, we're just receiving this. We're not blessing it. It's not a completed document yet. It's a work in progress. Correct?
I'm not even sure. Is it part of the materials?
Yeah, it's on page 70, 78.
Okay.
Yep, it's fine. It's tagged as draft.
Yep.
So I think that's fine. It's just to show what's being worked on, and it shows a discipline. Okay, can I have a motion to receive that until it's finalized?
So moved.
Second, Ken.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Item 15 is simply the council meeting minutes, and why we would share the council meeting minutes in a document like this is simply to say, you know, when are those meetings and when do we need to submit? So this one lists, I think it's got all the holidays and, you know, when budget is and whatnot, but just for us to be able to see when those council meetings are, and council meetings are tagged in green. And I think it's the Thursday prior that, actually, that's not even fair. I think Andy's, it's that Thursday they post, right? So you'd have to be in prior to Thursday to be part of that package.
Yeah, way before, usually Tuesday, I think.
Tuesday, so the Tuesday prior to a Monday. Okay,
So that's
Mr. Chair.
today.
yes.
I don't know whether Heather was before me.
Or, sorry, I apologize, Member Rose. So could we clarify, Mr. Chair, then is the objective to have the minutes of the June meeting in for the following council meeting on Monday, as that package may be completed for sending at this time? I don't know.
I think
can
if
send
we
them-
got it to them for tomorrow, we would be okay,
Great, so I can send it this evening then.
provided it's approved.
It's
by the board.
approved, yes.
Yeah, we
Yes,
haven't
of course.
gotten there yet. Member Rose, you look concerned.
Did we skip item 14?
Yes.
Sorry, I did do that. I was doing so well. It's our first meeting in 2 months and I've done so, I was doing so well. Let's, if I could then, let's finish off 15.
Yes.
And receive it and I'll go back. Thank you. Okay, so any further comments on item 15? Seeing none, could I have a motion to receive that, please?
So move.
Yeah, Ken and Andy, second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry about item 14, board members. So this is a victim support grant applications. Essentially, there's letters in the document that is written by local service clubs. And basically, they're espousing that they're in favor of this item. And it's just simply for the board to receive and discuss. But the reality is, I think it's more of a receive than us to do anything. And candidly, I don't think it's something we want to get in the way of.
No. I would like to motion that we receive.
Thank you, Member Rose.
I'll second Ken. Ken?
Okay, Ken, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so Mary, can I safely go to 16? Am I going to be right if I do that?
Absolutely.
This is the POA report, and if anybody's wondering, it's dated June 24th. Long time ago, but it didn't fall into our last meeting. It just fell into those days where it came out, and it didn't make our last meetings, which is why it's fairly old. Again, a few of the highlights for me was quite a few cases are backlogged. So we've got over 3,000 cases here in this report, which is unfortunate. Page 100 really talked to a lot of the tickets and the summons. They're all down significantly, which is all due to the pandemic, which is difficult. And the payments, this is where it kind of affects taxpayers and whatnot, but the payments to municipalities are also down significantly in this report. So there's nothing for us to do. It's just simply an information piece, but those were the key items for me. Is anybody else in their readings, did they glean anything that was important to them that they'd like to discuss? Okay. Oh, Mary, yes, please.
I was just more concerned about the section that talked about, because there's been such a long delay, that some of them will not be dealt with at all, that they're just going to be shuffled off. I don't mean if there was something major, but there was that the question about whether these things should be not dealt with now that they've gone past a certain date.
Right.
Anyway, as you said, it's just for receiving.
Yeah. You're not asking that question. I don't think there's anybody here that
No.
would be able to provide that. Unless Inspector Ward, you wanted to speak to that item, but I don't mean to put you on the spot. I don't think it's fair to you either.
No, I mean, that's ultimately a court decision.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So can I have a motion to receive that document?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary. Second. Andy,
Second.
looks like you were blinking. Oh, Ken, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay,
Yes.
so Ian, did I hear you?
Sorry, yes.
Okay. Oh, good. Oh, you're just saying yes to the report. I gotcha. I thought not yes, you've got something to
Okay.
say.
No, yes.
Got it. Okay, so here we are at a very important part of this meeting, and that's the adoption of the previous minutes. Want to make sure that everyone's comfortable with what we have, and what we want to do when we approve these is ensure that they're sent to the town and we're good to go, and we're reporting back to council in a timely fashion. So any comments on item 17, which is the previous board meeting minutes? No?
No.
Okay, hearing none, then I'm going to ask for approval of those meeting minutes.
So moved.
Thank you, Member Rose. Member McIntosh has seconded it. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay. Just want to stop and say, Heather, do you have everything that you require from the board?
Yes, thank you.
Very good. And if you could action those shortly, that would be excellent. So on it, I just want to make sure that we're communicating back to our council teammates and doing so in a quick fashion. So appreciate everybody's help with that. Okay, so item 18 is board member claims for special remuneration and the semi-annual report. So we have a notice of a claim in here from member McSweeney, and that is because he attended the Zone 5 meeting on our behalf. And then I'm going to turn it over to Heather just to speak to item 18.2. So in terms of 18.1, does anyone want to speak to that? Is there any concerns on 18.1?
Nope.
No, seeing none, hearing none. Can I have a motion to approve payment for that item 18.1?
So moved.
Very good. Member Rose, Member McIntosh seconded. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And so 18.2, this is what we wanted to do was just provide disclosure of any of the activities that required payment by taxpayers to board members over and above. And this report, to me, I guess what we're going to do is have it for next meeting. Is that what we're thinking, Heather?
So it was included in the package.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I put all the Excel files separately so that you would be able to navigate those. It's item 19.2. It's the last one on the email of Friday. Remuneration report, December 2020 to June 2021.
Okay.
So it's not, sorry, just to clarify, it's not in the package. It was sent separately.
So
Yeah.
it was included in the email with the package.
Right.
However, because it's a different file format, it's not been PDF'd, it's in the Excel file. So in the email of 3:19 p.m. on Friday, the 17th, the revised package,
Got it.
the
Got it.
remuneration report is the last item.
Thank you, Heather.
And Heather, this is year to date. Is that correct?
Correct. It's from December 2020. So everything that was approved at the Vice Chair, correct me, but the February meeting was the first one that the board had. So if you look at it, I've got the member's name, the date, and then the approving. February was the first time that any of these were approved from this December meetings. And so I included them onto this report because the approval dates were February 23rd.
And just to remind my fellow board members, this we call it a semi-annual report, is actually appended to our approved special remuneration policy. So it's something that we called it semi-annual, but we can call for it at any time with proper notice to Heather, so that we can see where we are year to date in terms of special claims and special expenses.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry I missed that, Heather. Got it here. That's great. So could we have a motion to receive that document?
So moved.
Second, Ken.
Very good. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Board members,
Sorry.
can you give me just a moment here, just a second? I'll be right back.
Sorry, board members, if you could advise the approver and the seconder for 18-1. Was that member Rose and
It was me for second. It was Mary for the first.
So
Thank you.
Rose, Rose on the motion and Ken on as a second.
Thank you for both.
Sorry about that, everyone. I'm a victim of working from home here and just had a little distraction. Okay. So we are on to the Police Services Board financials, are we not?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So the only thing that I wanted to call out on the Police Services Board financials is the legal line. And the legal line is in line with plan. However, it is a bit shocking to see it where it is, but we're about $3,000 off of where we should be year to date at this time. But on track for the year would be my assessment. But that's the only call out that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have anything that they're concerned about with those?
I had that, but you acknowledge that, Todd. It's Ken. What's clearing? The first line, over 10 grand in clearing, close to 11.
Let me just get back to it.
It's the very first one. It's a big number.
We're on 130.
136.
I had to go back out of the documentation into another report.
Page 136.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. I will have to check, but I believe that they're waiting for us to approve payment. And they put it there as clearing, but not cleared. So it can't go to a report line just yet. They're waiting for us. And that corresponds with, in my mind, something else that we passed earlier and closed.
So it's more like a holding account.
I think so, yes. But I can get clarity for next meeting, but if you add those together, it's essentially that amount. But I'll get clarity, Ken. Any other questions, board members? No? Okay. Seeing none, can I have a motion to receive the expenses for the month?
So moved.
Second, Ken.
Thank you, Mary and Ken. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So question period, and Mr. Bonato, I think we're good on question period.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. There's currently nobody on the line.
Very good. And I think that brings us all the way through all of those other items to new business. And because there isn't any other items that I'm aware of. So for new business, does anyone have any new business that they'd like to bring forward?
I've just got a question for the inspector.
Yes.
Hi, Terry. I didn't know whether we've got a full complement of officers yet, because remember there was a delay over training and so forth, and we were waiting for new members of the force. Have you nearly got all of them now, or some of them, or?
Yeah, it's yes to answer your question. The short answer, yes. We will be basically at full complement Friday, we have 3 more recruits graduating and will be starting with us. But of course, you know, we just get staffed up and then we have a couple people leave. So,
Yes.
but the short answer is yes, we will be pretty much at full complement.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Okay, very good. And my only new business comment, board members, is recently there was, and by recently, last quarter, there was a quarterly board meeting, and Inspector Ward, you would have attended it as well, for all the different detachments in Dufferin County. And it was the first time that I'd been to one. And at that meeting, I'm going to blame it on Vice Chair McSweeney, but I think somehow Orangeville got volunteered to have a quarterly board meeting. I would have to find out what the particulars of that were. But I guess my question is to everyone is, do we want to do that? Are we interested in having a quarterly board meeting? And it would be unfortunately online because we're not able to meet in person at this time, but we would host it. And, you know, Mary, you could probably be the leader of the whole thing and run it. But I'm just curious what board member thoughts are. And, you know, Terry, if you had any advice for us, we'd take that as well.
Mr. Chair, that was my first one as well.
Oh, it was, eh?
Yeah, so that was a new experience for me as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we'd even, like in terms of agenda, I'm assuming that this group would be in charge of the agenda. I guess I'd ask for input from other detachments, but if that's what the board desires, we can certainly do that.
And that could be, because I saw somewhere that was like the 21st or 22nd of October. Was that when that was scheduled for?
You're up on me. If that's when it is, I think that's great. So we still have time.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that's something you're gonna move ahead with, I could look at some type of guest speaker as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, throw me out a topic, like maybe we could look at the human trafficking one for that one, Mary.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, I'll make some inquiries, see what I can do.
Okay, and I'll follow up with the other regions and see what the desire is to do that. But I haven't heard from board members. Is this what we want to do?
I think we should.
Okay. Ken?
Yeah, just depending on what time it is. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. And Andy, you're jumping up and down. You're super excited.
I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I see Dan's got a question.
Okay, let me just finish off with Ian real quick. Ian, are you in favor of doing that?
Yes, I'm stoked.
Okay, excellent. And Gargamel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My only question is, if you guys are going online, do you plan on broadcasting this out similar to how you do these meetings, or would it just be a group meeting internally?
Yeah, I think, as I recall, I don't think it was broadcast. I think it was more about trying to make the other boards learn from each other. And
yeah, it was more of just a social.
Okay, so follow up to that, would you guys be requiring technical support for that, similar to how Mona and myself attend these ones, or would you guys feel fine on your own to kind of coordinate it?
I think we'd be okay to do it.
Okay, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah,
don't leave that bit to me.
It won't have all the usual pyrotechnics that you provide us, Dan, but it'll be something special, I'm sure.
As long as we have your number on speed dial, Dan, we'll be all right.
Yeah, I'll disconnect it the day before.
Okay. October 21st. Well, very good. So I'll start to put something together on that, and I'll ask for input from each of you. And I guess we're at adjournment time. I know we're going to go, just so everybody's aware, we need to go back into closed, excluding our beloved inspector, but the rest of the board members, we need to go back and finish.
Okay.
So
that's okay, Mr. Chair, because I got to jump over to Shelburne now. So.
Okay.
Oh, you do? What time do they start at?
6:30.
Oh, you didn't tell us that.
It's okay. I was just waiting to see how long we were going to run.
Oh, okay. Hey, we're much friendlier than they are. Make sure you tell them that.
Is this still being taped?
Yes.
Okay. Could we have a motion to adjourn, board members?
So moved.
Second, Ken.
Ken, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Terry, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you.
No problem. Thanks, everybody.
you.
I have a list of follow-up and I'll do a few things and Mr. Chair will be in touch.
Very
Okay.
good. And Dan and Mona, thank you again for your time. We appreciate you too. Okay, guys, so we'll see you on the other side. We'll go back into the, Heather's got a closed link for us that starts relatively soon. So we'll go into that one, okay?
Fine.
Take care,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.